Tomorrow, when you reach an intersection, a light will quietly tell you what to do. Green means move. Yellow means prepare to stop. Red means wait. You probably won't make eye contact with the drivers beside you. You won't negotiate. You'll simply trust that everyone can see the same color. But a little over a century ago, that shared language barely existed. When early automobiles entered crowded cities, intersections had no automatic referee. There were no standardized traffic lights, lane markings were uncommon, road signs varied from place to place, and the rules were still being invented. So what did driving actually feel like before traffic lights? Imagine approaching a busy intersection in 1905. Your car has weak mechanical brakes, narrow tires, stiff steering, and no turn signals. Around you are pedestrians, bicycles, delivery carts, streetcars, and horse-drawn wagons. Some horses are calm, others are terrified by your engine. Nobody has been given a private part of the street. Pedestrians cross wherever they choose, because streets had belonged to people long before automobiles arrived. Children play near the roadway, vendors work beside it. Horses stop unexpectedly. Streetcars follow rails and cannot swerve around you. Then several vehicles reach the intersection at once. Who goes first? Often the answer is whoever appears most determined. Drivers slow down, watch one another, wave, shout, ring bells, or squeeze rubber horns. One person moves forward, another hesitates. A pedestrian steps between them. A wagon blocks the opposite direction. Everyone adjusts in real time. It was less like following a system and more like joining a negotiation conducted with eye contact, hand gestures, and several thousand pounds of moving machinery. And the strangest part is that many people did not initially consider the automobile to have any special claim to the road. Today, stepping into traffic feels like entering a space designed for cars. In the early automobile era, the opposite was often true. The car was the intruder. It was fast, noisy, unpredictable, and operated by someone who might have received little or no formal training. Driver licensing developed gradually, and standards varied widely. Roads were also inconsistent. A driver could move from pavement to brick, gravel, dirt, or mud during the same journey. At night, illumination was limited. In rain or snow, controlling an early car became even harder. As automobile ownership grew, this improvised system began to collapse. Cities responded by placing police officers in the middle of major intersections. These officers became human traffic lights. They raised their arms, blew whistles, and rotated their bodies to stop one direction while releasing another. Now imagine doing that job. You stand in the center of moving traffic for hours. Engines surround you. Horses pass within feet of your body. Drivers must see you through rain, fog, dust, and darkness. One misunderstood gesture could send two streams of traffic directly into each other. Some cities built elevated booths or towers so officers could be seen more clearly. Others experimented with signs that could be manually turned to display commands such as stop and go. But none of these solutions completely solved the problem. Every busy intersection required a person, and every person could become tired, distracted, or difficult to see. The concept of mechanically signaling traffic was not entirely new. Railways had already developed systems of arms, lamps, and colors to prevent trains from entering the same section of track. In 1868, London installed a railway-style road signal near the Houses of Parliament. It used movable arms during the day and red and green gas lamps at night. A police officer operated it manually. But the gas apparatus later exploded and injured the officer, ending the experiment. The idea survived, but automobiles had not yet become common enough to force cities to perfect it. Then the streets changed faster than anyone expected. In the United States, passenger car ownership exploded during the early 20th century. Between 1919 and 1929 alone, the number of passenger cars rose from roughly 6.5 million to 23 million. Streets built for walking, horses, and streetcars were suddenly carrying machines in enormous numbers. In 1914, Cleveland installed an electric traffic signal at Euclid Avenue and East 105th Street. It used red and green signals, displayed stop and move, and included a warning bell before the direction changed. An operator controlled it from a nearby booth. It was not fully automatic, but the intersection finally had one visible command that everyone could follow. Other cities created their own systems. Some used lights, others used signs, bells, or towers. The designs were not yet standardized, which meant a signal understood in one city might look different in another. Around 1920, Detroit police officer William Potts developed a four-direction, three-color signal that included an amber warning phase inspired by railroad signaling. Instead of changing abruptly between movement and stopping, the third color gave drivers time to clear the intersection. Then, in 1923, inventor Garrett Morgan received a patent for a three-position traffic signal. His design included an interval that stopped traffic in every direction, allowing the intersection to clear and giving pedestrians a safer opportunity to cross. These inventions did not instantly create the system we know today. Cities spent years experimenting with placement, timing, colors, and coordination. By the late 1920s, pre-timed systems were appearing across many American cities. National standards for signs, markings, and signals followed in the 1930s. And this is the real payoff. Traffic lights did more than prevent crashes. They completely changed the emotional experience of driving. Before them, every intersection demanded judgment. You had to read faces, predict animals, interpret gestures, and decide whether another person would stop. Movement depended on trust between strangers. The traffic light removed that negotiation. You no longer needed to trust the driver coming toward you. You only needed to trust that they would obey the same signal. Red, yellow, and green turned chaotic human behavior into a shared machine-controlled rhythm. And once intersections could reliably organize cars, cities could move more vehicles, build larger roads, and redesign streets around automobile traffic. So the next time a red light feels like an inconvenience, remember what it replaced: an intersection where nobody truly knew who was supposed to go first. Would you trust yourself to drive through a modern city for one day with every traffic light turned off?